And yeah, thanks for having me here. And perfect transition, I must say, from Christian's presentation to this one here, because maybe you wonder what you do with all your IoT data, for instance, within your processes, connected to your processes, and you ask a lot of why should I do this? A lot of W questions and if-then questions. If I do this, what happens next, for instance? And what I today brought with me is where you can leverage process mining for digital transformation. And before doing this, I'm going to introduce myself. So I'm Michele, as said, Angelo from Lufthansa Cargo, working as a senior manager for processes and performance management. Yeah, I'm basically doing, like most of the time, projects, implementations for CRM systems, for instance, Microsoft Dynamics 365. And also, this is what I brought today. My secret passion is in regards to data and process analytics, process mining, and just switching. And I also brought a little hypothesis with me, and I'd like to carefully, or want you to carefully read this through. Imagine you would know every actual truth of your organizational processes. Really every time, everywhere, everything. How does this sound to you? For the one or other, it might be, wow, something I waited, I don't know, a couple of years or a decade for. Others would say, whoa, stop. Don't bother me with things like this. I want to do my stuff as I wanted to do it, I don't know, for the last months, years, decades, whatever you can think of. And the thing is to bring those both worlds together. We talked a lot about people, change management. What I will show you at the later stage. So before we start, just a little agenda and a sneak introduction of what is Lufthansa Cargo is doing. The one or other might know. So within the Lufthansa group, we are doing the logistics part, and after that, going into the real deep stuff in terms of process mining. I'm gonna quickly explain to you how this will work. What is this all about? What do you need? Where are some dependencies? And after this, I'm gonna introduce to you what was our project scope, how did we did this whole thing within just 9 months, what kind of data did we connect, and last but not least, at which stage are we now, and what could be an outlook in terms of automation and machine learning and things like this. And the very last point, I think that's the most interesting one, is the success factors that, from my point of view at least, you would need in order to implement process mining within your organization. So anybody in this room heard about what process mining is, either personally or within your company? There is one, so interesting. Thanks for the hands up. So just a quick intro. I brought a little image video with me to give you an idea and to also like a little bit set the scene for the second block. So hope the sound works. That looks good. Enjoy.
This is for the ones whose hands build tomorrow. Who enable change to take wing. This is for the ones whose heart beats for sustainability, who embrace innovation and have more than halved our carbon emissions, who break yesterday's limits to become climate neutral. This is for the ones whose mind imagines more, who have the drive and know-how to push digitalization. For more speed, more transparency, and quality for all. This is for the ones with the cargo spirit that soars, who connect people, businesses, nations. Across the world, around the clock. Who overcome challenges and envision new ways. This is for the ones who have come so far and will go even further. Together.
So this was a little bit of an emotional part from Lufthansa Cargo, but I also brought some numbers with me in order to get you an idea, or by that movie you might already get or have an idea on the complexity of in a company like Lufthansa Cargo, doing transportations, moving stuff from A to B in all kind of, let's say, sizes and numbers. Last year's figures, we had a revenue of about 3.8 billion euros, and our earnings were around about 1.5 million, and we were the only company within or there was another one, but almost the only company within the Lufthansa group that had positive profits, while the Lufthansa group, for instance, you might have heard, was really struggling during the pandemic, and currently it's going better. We're lifting up a little bit more, this also gave us the chance to implement and do things like we do now. And beyond those figures, we have a so-called load factor of 71%. That means how packed an aircraft is, so on average 71%. And besides those numbers, to give you also a perspective on our fleet, we are the only carrier within Europe that operates an own freighter fleet. Currently we have in total 15, I think by next week it will be 16 freighters within our network, and combined with those freighters we have roundabout between 400 and 500 other, let's say, aircraft using, or that are used within the Lufthansa group, passenger-wise. So you could like pack your stuff into the freighters, but also into the belly of regular aircrafts where passengers are moving from A to B. And none, but not less, around about 300 destinations that we serve at the moment. And talking about like processes and doing things in your processes, this is mostly done for sure by people. And oops, there is the zero a little bit down there. It's more than 4,000 people just purely within the Lufthansa group worldwide. And they are the ones actually that performing and doing things and putting or giving input into our systems where we get the data out of it. And so I hope you get an idea now what we are doing, and now I'd like to talk how can we now combine those two worlds. And when talking about process mining, you see in the left-hand pictures a process that could be typically written within a theoretical, let's say, book using any ARIS or BMPPN methodologies. So pretty straight ahead, have a starting point, have an end point, and that's pretty much it. But in reality, this often looks more like the right-hand picture. So completely different. Having more, let's say, exceptions, more backs and forths, having multiple players within your processes. That's actually how it looks like. And that's also actually people don't or are not aware of those complexities. And therefore, we implemented or used process mining to get transparencies of our processes, to discover those and also using them for monitoring purposes, and get an idea how our processes actually look and not what we think they are looking like on the left-hand pictures. And I was quite surprised. You also had Solonis on your slide deck. That's the service provider we are also using in order to make use of process mining and the technology behind. So the question now is with the use of process mining, and just to give you an idea how this works and that's the fantastic thing from an end-to-end perspective. So breaking up silos, getting out the data from different departments, connecting the data, and then all of a sudden you would know how often does something happen, why does it happen. You find clusters, you get an idea of deviations within your processes. So making things really, really transparent, and then get also an idea how long does something take to go from step A to step B. And this is very interesting for us due to our, let's say, complex ecological system. These have been questions, at least from an end-to-end perspective, that we were never ever be answerable in the past. And using this technology, or get an idea on how to use this, you could, I and also the leading, let's say, providers in this section, they call it like an X-ray on your processes. So imagine you would put on some goggles or lenses in order to X-ray your processes, and this is actually, and this will be then the next step, creating a digital twin, just in a nutshell. And to also give you an idea what we have done, because this is not a typical implementation. Normally, or most of the companies I at least know, they implement or doing it with processes that are rather connected to SAP, so order to cash, pay to procure processes, so more, I wouldn't call them the simple ones, but let's say not so much from an end-to-end perspective. But what we have done in this case, this is, as said, not the typical one, but also we did this within 9 months from booking. So when the customer orders or books his journey for the cargo, not for himself, of course, and then when it comes to departure, handing over the cargo, and then once it's in our custody, then we move it from A to B, and that's called handling in our terms. And sometimes things also doesn't work out as planned or expected. Then that's my department. I'm responsible for the customer service and the processes and performance management behind, and then we come in place and don't talk often about this, but nevertheless, at the end of the day, we sure also have claims when the customer wants some compensations back for something that didn't work out as expected, for sure. And last but not least, for sure, accounting, when we request the billing or the invoice to our customers to receive some money back. So you see that's a whole process from an end-to-end perspective. And in regards to process mining, you see this little AWB paper sheet. That's the business object. So that's our main business object. So we could track each and every activity in our processes with this single AWB number. It's like a contract number, you could imagine. And yeah, like moving a little bit on the right-hand side, give you an idea about the technical thing behind. You actually need three things. So you, on the one hand side, need to define your activity. So those are the, let's say, the traces that are left in our IT systems. So you define what kind of data you want to pull out, and that's typically called an activity. And once you have defined this, connect this with the so-called business object, in our case, this AWB number, and then an event takes place at a certain date and a certain time. And those are three components, and this is, let's say, packed into a so-called event log or activity log. And if you now imagine you have for all those processes, I don't know, a couple of activities, hundreds, thousands, whatever, or how complex your organization is designed, let's put it this way. We, from an MVP perspective, because we wanted to find out if such a complex system could be covered with process mining, and our partner that we have selected, we did an MVP approach, connected 8 different interfaces. So that's quite a huge number, pulling out the data, transformed it into those event logs, and round about 50 to 100 different attributes by each and every interface. So sounds a lot, but is rather small, because 50 to 100 to one interface. Just to give you another number, we have in our booking interface around about 2,000 attributes that we could, let's say, filter on and do analysis. But that was also part of, or one point of the success story. At the end of the day, start small and scale very, very fast. So we are now able to connect different data very, very quickly on the other side. And also one aspect when talking about process mining, and this is in comparison the other thing that is in the world out there, it's called task mining. So while task mining is more on a personal level and not so familiar, and also not so much possible in our region here in Germany due to GDPR reasons, due to working council and things like this. The thing for process mining is you don't use any personal data, because it's just purely about the process and nothing more. So no one needs to be, let's say, afraid when it comes to an analysis and a result that something goes wrong, for instance. It's not about the people. It's not about punishing, or it's not about finger pointing or something like this. It's really just about how to efficiently improve things that now came as a result from an analysis. And you might need, or you might raise now the question, where's the difference between process mining and business intelligence, for instance? So by business intelligence, you could also do analyses, reportings and things like this, but regularly it's limited to the sources. So connecting from an end-to-end perspective, having those huge or having this huge data lake that we are available to connect to, that's one of the main advantages. On the other hand, while actually when you do BI, you focus on one single point. It's normally the end point, for instance, or any point in between the start and the end of the process. With process mining, you are able to connect each and every activity, and you can analyze each and every activity. You can look how does a value looks in activity A, and how does it develop through the process, and what kind of different values and how does it change that value in the chain. So that's the pretty interesting thing, bringing things into context. So that's one of the main benefits. And as already said before, we have chosen the market leader in process mining, and not only due to the fact that it's a German company, but they are really one of or the successful company worldwide. It's not that old, so just a couple of years, a decade. Was founded by 3 students in Munich, and if you look at this number here, they are not on the stock market, but probably soon. So talking about venture capital and capitalization, 11 billion valued. That's I have never heard something like this, at least not in Germany, from a startup company. Just to give you an idea about the capital valuation of Lufthansa, so the whole group, it's just 7.5. So this company, tech companies, with no assets, that's a fantastic journey from my point of view. They already now have 2.5 or almost 3,000 employees and around about 2,500 customers, and we're one of them. Many others as well. Now, talking about Celonis, I'd like to give you an idea what was our implementation scope. So already said, like, we did this in 9 months, which also was quite a challenge, you might imagine. So half of it was connecting all the data to the data lake we are using, or an analytics platform, and the other one was more from a functional perspective, setting up those analyses from an MVP perspective. The main goal for us, and this is the first point, is an overall reduction of throughput time. So you could imagine when the customer books his journey and for the cargo, and then he is billed, so the whole complex system, we now are able to see for each and every process step, but also in a whole, how long does something take. And from this perspective, so from a top-down perspective rather than from a bottom-up, so knowing for your responsibility, for your process, how long does it take, that's obvious. But now you have the whole change in an idea on where do you need to dig in deeper in order to decrease the throughput time. So that was the main goal. And besides this, also said sometimes things go wrong, and when things go wrong, things takes time in order to fix it. So the second major, let's say, goal was to reduce those irregularities. So we call them discrepancies within our process and shipment flow. That was one other point, and then overall, for sure, enhancing or improving the customer experience, because without troubling in a journey, customers are more likely to come back to you and booking again and again and again. But the last point, I think, besides what's most important from a customer's perspective, is also when you're looking into your organization, and that's the main, I would say, factor, is that you could do this all by your own, in terms of you don't need any IT. In terms of, okay, you need IT for sure, connecting the data, setting up the platform, things like this, connecting to the cloud, security, we heard a lot, taking all those things into consideration. But once the data is there, business is the one, or is the key from a self-service perspective, and self-service terms like, self-service BI, things like this, creating your analysis, your reports. So that's done purely by us, by the business. And that's one of the main, I would say, advantages using, at least I could only tell or talk about Celonis, but others doing this as well. You don't need anybody else to, I don't know, gather any or collect any data, and then this data is static and things like this, and you need to now connect the data to your business object. So this is nothing you need to care of. And from my point of view, and then that's the last point, you are now able to overcome those silos. And just to give you an idea here on the right hand side, this is when we set up any use cases. These are the 3 metrics we always have a look at, and for sure it's always about costs and saving those costs by reducing times and discrepancies in your flows, but sometimes you could not qualify things by costs, and that's why we also are looking into quality aspects. And last but not least, what is most actually important for us is compliance. Compliance into regulatory compliance, laws by governments, laws by the aviation, laws by the IATA we need to follow. And because this, when we mess it up, this costs hundreds of thousands euros for us if things go wrong, because we are, let's say, not only moving general cargo, but also dangerous goods like radioactive stuff, weapons, so on and so forth. So very, very, let's say, strict and, yeah, also dangerous stuff. Okay, now this is actually where we currently are. So we have done all those analyses, and this would be the next step. I already said, talking about automation. This is connected to this as well, and with Celonis, at least they have the option, and this is fully integrated, that called Action Engine flows. So once you detect something and you get a new data load, for our instance it's a daily data load, and once you have defined rule-based that someone needs to be alerted, then he or she or the department, whatever, gets the notification. And think about compliance, you need to do something, you need to scan the shipment, and we realize it's not scanned, for instance, then the department gets a notification in order to fix the issue in real time. And that's also one of the benefits, depending on how you connect your data currently. So real time is an option. We are not doing this at the moment, but that's at least our plan. And the other one is talking about automation. It's robotic process automation. So once it's rule-based and you realize things are going wrong, a bot could fix the things and writing back into the source system. That are all options. And last but not least, also modules for machine learning. That's one of the other, let's say, future topics. We are looking into it. And this is the last slide, and from my point of view, the most important one. I did a little word cloud. This is the container. I tried to cluster it a little bit by the colors, and this could also be one of the points we could talk about later. You see a lot of words from my point of view, the the ones that are the biggest, from my point of view, the most important ones. As said before, people, really people and team and mindset. That's the key in order to do a transition. Sorry, to do a transition like this. Talking about more the hard facts, skills, having a kind of knowledge, or you need to learn on how to write or how to create an analysis, but this is something everyone can do. Celonis is called this process query language, that PQL here in the middle section. It's near to SQL language, but yeah, other than that, as said before, coming from a project phase, having those people in your projects for a couple of months, because we created some kind of mindset, of course, and now when the project ends, and that's from my point of view, the biggest struggle or hurdle is to get that mindset and shift it into your line organization. And this is also, or was, or is for us the biggest challenge, because when you are in line organization, you are all of a sudden then connected again with the people that are, I would say, living in the old world. And how to combine those two views, this needs to be done by change management. And so the keys around this is more, let's say, on the soft factors rather than on the hard ones. And if you want to talk a little bit about this in detail, we can do this later. If you want to connect, feel free. And thanks for your attention.